which there are 9 conditions listed for this subdivision. I see our applicant representative coming down.
Yes, Jerry Bird, Bird Survey in Mobile. Um, the North Carlin Street right of way is 40 feet, I believe it is. Requirement to be 50 feet. I'd like to waive that as a requirement, maybe leave it up to city engineering. North Carlin runs from Dolphin Street to Old Shell Road. That's it, 1 block. It's developed with curb and gutter, sidewalks, all utilities. Really don't need to widen North Carlin Street, I don't believe. We're dedicating the corner radius at Dolphin and North Carlin. Other than that, we don't have a problem with the any of the rest of the 9.
So this would be a revision to number 2 on the conditions.
Yes. If you could.
Any questions from commissioners for Mr. Byrd, or any comments from staff regarding Carlin Street?
What's the existing right of way width there, right there, Nick?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same. What I don't know off the top of my head. But what did you say the existing right of way was?
Right away width 40.
40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a commissioner, I think we'd be happy to work with him. It probably needs a little bit more. I don't know if it's the full 25 from the center line, but we'll have to look at the trees. I see on this aerial photo there's some trees on there, and where they fall with regards to the sidewalk, I just don't know.
Well,
Did I understand you correctly? You requested to work with the city engineering office to establish what that right of way would be.
no, I mean, we've got it surveyed. We know it's there. Now, actually, I think it's south end from the property line to the center line of the road is a little in excess of 20 feet, 21 and a half maybe. It's not perfectly centered in the right of way at the south end.
And you're saying, and it's 40 feet wide. It's not even, the right of way is not even the minimum 50 feet wide that the traditional.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without seeing your plat and seeing your specific, I'll just tell my commissioner,
Yeah.
I would not be in favor of doing anything less than 50.
You need to go out and look at it on the ground, examine it, whatever.
Or
What?
look at your survey and see what all your survey has picked up.
Yeah, just, conditional waiver of that section if you deem necessary not to widen.
Yeah, looking at the aerial photo here, I can tell it's tight. It looks like the every bit of the road is taken up every inch of right of way, and so for power and water and many other utilities that are there. It's just,
Yeah.
40 is almost not enough for the road even to be there, much less the utilities. I realize it's already there, but that's part of what this body does is it cleans up situations like this.
Like I said, the sidewalks are there, so any additional is going to go from the back of the sidewalk on over.
Again, I'm looking at the aerial photo for here. It looks like everything's just right on top of the road. There's no separation really between the curb and the gutter and the sidewalk to speak of.
Well, that's fine.
If you've got
Maybe
the road,
going out, or I can meet George out there and look at it or whatever.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
that would be so.
Like I say, if you agree not to require it, that would require a waiver. That's the reason I mentioned conditional waiver of it based on your final decision.
Unless we found that the road was all built way off center one side or the other, I'm going to be pretty inclined to, require the 20 or desire that 25 feet about the center line. I mean, I just can't think of a scenario why we wouldn't do that unless your survey shows that the road is shifted off to one side and it's just awkward.
Nick, I was going to say, in reading the staff report and looking at this, if you look at the existing house that's there in the northeast corner of North Carlin and Dolphin Street, I mean, there's a brick wall and some other things which appear to be directly against the back of the sidewalk. And so, to Mr. Bird's point of, is this road going to be widened in the future? And if the right-of-way is only 40 feet wide, it would seem to me that, to try to get to that 50, might actually require a 10-foot dedication on this property, because I don't know that we would go and you know, ask for that on the other side. So I would respectfully at least be in favor of granting that request.
I mean, I'm happy to look at it with you, but again, all I can do is look at what's here in front of me today to see if see if the rest of everything that needs to be in the right of way would adequately fit right. And I'm seeing a couple of large trees, and I don't know what they're doing to the sidewalk that's there or not there. More than happy to look at it with you.
Okay.
Well, Doug, can we
Yeah.
do a conditional waiver that says the city, if they can come to some kind of solution that's satisfactory to the city engineer?
Condition number 2 could be revised just to state that sufficient per the future decision of the city engineering office.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assuming all the other conditions were good.
I like to point out that the traffic engineering comment needs to be updated. It didn't match what was originally sent. It should just simply be driveway number, size, location, design to be approved by traffic engineering, conform to AASHTO standards. There's Moffett Road's not even touching that lot, so I'm not sure how that even got on there. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak for agenda item number 5 at 1852 Dolphin Street? Anyone here to speak against it? All right, seeing none, I'll ask commissioners to remember those two condition adjustments potentially. Number 6 on the agenda, subdivision 429 Lincoln Boulevard, Mobile Terrace subdivision. 3 lots, right at 1/3 of an acre. There are 6 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? Applicant or agent Linda Ellerby present? Any comments from staff regarding the applicant or not being here?
I have not heard anything from the applicant. Logan, have you heard anything? No.
Was this a pretty straightforward subdivision application? Based on the conditions, it appears as such.
Well, it comes down to the right-of-way dedication and the impact perhaps that could have on the already substandard lot sizes. But there is a history of the dedication of right-of-way in other subdivisions that we've had in Mobile Terrace. If you look at the map on the screen behind you, we did get a right-of-way dedication for the park that was created, as well as for the property across the street from the park to provide the standard minimum 50-foot wide right-of-way or at least 25 feet from the center line.
All right. Is there anyone else here to speak for agenda item number 6 at 429 Lincoln Boulevard? Anyone here to speak against it? All right, seeing none, we'll note the applicant was not present to make any agreement of approval for conditions. We'll take that up when we get into deliberation. Number 7 on the agenda, this is a rezone at 674 Western Drive. CNR Partners is the rezoning from Buffer Business Suburban District, which is B1, to Community Business Suburban District, which is B3. There are 7 findings of fact for commissioners to consider and then 2 conditions listed. Applicants are making their way.
Jerry Bird, Bird Servan, F. Pete Graham, one of the owners, with me. We yeah, I think we're in favor of everything. It's the existing facility. It's the use that, I mean, it's not like we're subdividing. It's the use. They're proposing to put in an automotive body shop that's an existing, does only insurance work where cars cars are brought in, they're worked on, the insurance company pays for them, and they're out. They're not stored on site as such unless they're being worked on. And that's what we're proposing. We have I-1 across the street, on the west side of Western Drive. On the north is B1, and on the south, B1. And along Western Drive, there's a mixture of businesses and residences. Even though they're zoned R1, there are some residents there, but it's all zoned R1, B1, excuse me. They're zoned B1.
Mr. Bird, you say that the current use is as a body shop?
No,
Okay.
it's been warehouse there quite a while. It's been closed, junk piled out there. They came in, cleaned up all the junk, cleaned out the building, painted it, new fence,
Mhm.
improved the look. But that's what they want to put there. Yes.
Any questions from commissioners regarding the rezone? And while you're thinking, if you have a question, I'll remind that you did get a online public comment from a Mr. Richard Henderson, P.O. Box 2152. That is going to be in your email inbox.
Mr. Chair, I have two questions. I guess one for staff and one for the applicant. Staff question, and I guess to point out, one thing I did notice, the staff report, at least the verbiage in it maybe was a little bit conflicted because it noted that the nearest B3 zone properties were, much further south on Western Drive, closer to Moffett Road, but the current zoning map actually shows some spotlight B3 lots there on Northwest Drive, which I guess for all intents and purposes could be considered an extension of Western Drive. So I guess I just wanted to confirm that that was indeed correct.
Well, the map is up on the screen behind you, and it does show that there is a B3 zoning district on Northwest Drive, and then there is this one on Cotton Street. The one on Northwest may have been the conditional one where there was a music studio going in, and once that use stopped, it was supposed to revert back to R1. I don't know if that ever happened. But just a brief history, all of the B1 property on the east side of Western Drive was rezoned after the Board of Zoning Adjustment in 1980 submitted a request to the Planning Commission to do a zoning study. They were receiving a lot of use variance requests. And after the planning staff completed the study, it was recommended to the Planning Commission that the entire strip of land be rezoned to B1. Now, that included the site in question, which prior to the rezoning in 1974 received a use variance to allow a warehouse to be built in an R1 district on that site.
And then my question for the applicant, I did notice in the minutes of the public hearing, was wondering if you could just kind of maybe give the commission a little bit more color on what the feedback was from those who attended.
Yeah, we had a public meeting right there, the church just down the street. And the general consensus is they were happy that we had cleaned up the property because it was in pretty bad shape. The last tenant had been before we owned it, a concrete contractor, and the place was junked up and overgrown in very bad shape. We did a complete renovation, so they were happy with that. The one thing they kind of did not want is it to look like a junkyard. That was sort of the universal feedback, is they were kind of okay. They understand that there's going to be a business there of some kind, but they didn't want it to look like a junkyard with all sorts of cars parked out there and just looking junked up like it was. And we are happy to work on that, self-restrict on that if we need to, because part of the issue is not just this current tenant that wants it, but all the interest we have is local small businesses, electrical contractor, cabinet shop, screen printing shop. Those are all people that have come and are interested in that property, and some may or may not fit into B1, and we're just trying to be able to accommodate the local businesses that are interested in that property. But directly to your question, the concern at the public meeting was that we don't allow it to look like a junkyard. There's a 6-foot chain link fence all the way around. Some of it's brand new, some of it's older. Along the back, it was in decent shape. and had a lot of growth in it, so we left the back. But probably 70% of the fence is brand new 6-foot chain link fence.
Any further questions from commissioners? Thank you, gentlemen. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience that is here to speak for this agenda item, which is a rezone at 674 Western Drive. Again, this is for that agenda item.
Mr. Chairman, let me point out that one of the suggested conditions, if the commission were moved to approve this, says provision of a protection buffer as possible condition number 1, and a chain link fence would not suffice for that protection buffer requirement.
Mr. Ream, did you hear that? All right, so in condition 1, and Mr. Bird's got the agenda with him, it reads provision of a protection buffer to the greatest extent possible where the site abuts residential uses in compliance with Article 3, Section 6438 of the UDC. You would have to be in agreement, and Mr. Bird, in agreement with those two conditions in order for this to move forward, which means that the current fencing that you put up would not serve adequate for protection buffer at the residential abutments. Are you in agreement with that? Could you be in agreement with that? Go ahead, Mr. Bird. You want 6
I believe it would include not only a fence, but also a vegetative buffer.
vegetative plus fencing? Fencing, well, on the residential areas.
And
All right,
residential area and use. So the property to the south may be used as a single-family residence, which means they would need it on the south line and the east line.
Mr. Ream, I've heard him say yes. So that it means he is in agreement. All right, where was I? For or against? Is there anyone in the audience who is not for or against this application of a rezone at 674 Western Drive? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 8 on the agenda. This is a dual application. This is a as a subdivision and a rezone at 2660 and 2662 Spring Hill Avenue, 266 Mobile Street, and inclusive of 251 Del Barco Drive. This is a subdivision of 2 lots at 3.6 acres and a rezone from single-family residential urban R1 and community business urban B3 to an entirety community business urban B3, of which there are 14 conditions listed. And then that's on the subdivision. For the rezone, there would be 7 potential findings of fact and then 2 conditions listed. I see the applicant is present and at the podium. Your name and address for the record, and then go right ahead.
Trevor McGill. And so we're trying to rezone and subdivide this portion of property. This is the second time we've been here. We were here a year ago with the stipulation that we need to get a traffic impact study. Once we did that, DOT said that they didn't want to give us access off of Spring Hill Ave. After working with them, walking the site, we came to a solution. They agreed to give us access if we buy the house to put the driveway there. And so that is why we are back now for rezone and subdivision of this full parcel.
So for clarification, that's what's bringing in the residents at 251 Del Barco.
So that'll just give us access into the gas station. Yes, that is why they're here.
And that's the only way that you got
That is
DOT?
Yes.
Okay.
They would not give us access further to the west. They said that we had to bring it to the east. And then we're also going to improve the median on Spring Hill.
All right. I'll point out to commissioners, we had several online comments that were made regarding application number 8. They are in your email inbox. Looks to be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 potentially online. I'll ask now if any commissioners have any questions for the applicant regarding this subdivision and rezone.
So a portion of it is. Oh, sorry. A portion of it is. They have a business in the back, but the portion that we are purchasing is vacant. There's nothing. There's no structure on it. And then the buildings abutting Spring Hill are also vacant. There's no businesses inside of those.
Any further questions from commissioners regarding this application?
I have one. Can you describe what the buffer is between the house? I'm guessing that must be 253 Del Barco. Is that the next house up?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what's between the site that you're wanting to subdivide and those two houses?
Currently, I believe there's just trees and bushes. We're planning on putting in a full wooden privacy fence and vegetation to completely screen them from our property.
Okay, so a wooden privacy fence. Do you have any? Is there any more detail on that? I mean, a privacy fence can be 6 feet. It can be 8 feet.
I believe the plans for an 8-foot privacy wooden fence. It's like your standard backyard fencing.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff. Does that existing residential neighborhood, is there an active set of, I'm sorry, give me a chance. Is there an active set of restrictive covenants for that neighborhood? Or have the covenants expired, or they?
That's not something that staff would know. Typically with subdivisions of this age, they do not have active covenants, but you never know until you research. And that's not information that we staff typically are required to even maintain knowledge of.
Same question to the applicant. Have y'all researched those? Do you know? Do they
Yes, we have. And to get it removed, it's required to have at least 50% of the neighborhood on board, which I've received.
To have that effectively to have.
Yes, to have it have the restrictive covenant removed, we have to have 50% of the neighborhood and have them sign off, which we've received from.
So you're saying you have received 50% of the neighborhoods?
Yes,
okay.
Of owners of the homes, not renters. It's got to be owners.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I could ask the audience to please be respectful of the speakers and just let us know by show. Okay, that works just fine. Just put your hand by your ear and let us know we need to speak a little bit louder. Thank you. Any further questions from commissioners? I just have one question. This looks to be a development of a gas station that has, is that 8 pumps planned?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Question.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so you already have received the signatures of half the owners?
Yeah, well, we've talked to half the owners, and they've all agreed to sign. We just, because of this, we haven't finalized the paperwork because we don't own the property. But they've all agreed to sign off, and so if we get approval today, we'll get all of that paperwork finalized and recorded and filed.
Was there a community meeting held?
Yes.
Well, what was the date of that community meeting and where was it?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember what day it was, but it was at Spring Hill Library. Nobody showed up.
No one showed up?
No. And
Was
I sent
it-
out the letters. But that was, I mean, this is the third time we've had to do it. The first time there was a group of people that came. Because
Okay.
we came in for a second application that we ended up going back on, and we weren't ready to submit, and then we came back on this one. So.
All right, any further questions for the applicant regarding the subdivision, excuse me, or the rezone? I'll now ask if there's anyone else in the audience to speak for this agenda item number 8, at 2660 and 2662 Spring Hill Avenue, 266 Mobile, and then 251 Del Barco Drive. You're speaking to speak on behalf of for the agenda item. Okay, come on down. Reminder to please state your name and address for the record, and for the audience members, please pull the microphone down, speak as clearly as. Thank you.
My name is Lawrence Carroll. I'm at 266 Mobile Street, the U.J. Robbins Memorial Center. We're an adult daycare center. We provide respite and supervision for elderly and disabled adults over the course of a day. We've been there since 1871, as an adult daycare since 1977. I've been the director there for 15 years now, and we are in support of this project. We feel that there's no impact as far as the safety of our residents, not our residents, but our clients, regarding the traffic and so forth. I think it's actually going to improve the traffic flow because people who need gas have two choices to make, and you can easily get to either one of those and in and out of it. We're in support of it. We have three members of our board of directors here who are also in support of this project as well. We've been working with Mr. McGill and his company for quite a while. There's a sign on the property now that for this community hearing, which was at the Moore branch of the library over by Spring Hill College, at McGregor and O'Shell Road. That community meeting was held and no one did show up. But again, we feel that the safety is not impacted. We're comfortable with a gas station / convenience store on that side of the property near our clients and staff. So we're comfortable with it. We support it 100%.
Any questions from commissioners for Mr. Carroll? Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Mr. Carroll would be representative number 1 of 4 allowed for an agenda item. Is there anyone else in the audience to speak for this agenda item? All right, seeing none, I will now ask if there's anyone in the audience. We got a hand raised here. Well, thank you, ma'am. So anyone against that would like to speak, we have 4 that are allowed. So if there's more than 4, you need to come to an agreement with each other of which of the 4 will come down and speak. Also, a reminder to each of those, we'd ask that your comments be concise. You have a 5-minute period. You'll hear a beep at 4-minute mark asking you to please summarize your comments. And a reminder to have your points made to the commissioners and not the audience or the applicant or the staff. Thank you very much, and first one can come down. It's all right. Take your time. A reminder, when you get to the podium for the rest of the audience, please pull the microphone down closer to your mouth so that we can hear, the audience can hear. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Pamela Gaines, and I live at 266 Del Barco. A year ago this month, a sign for an upcoming community meeting concerning building a Murphy Oil convenience store at one of the busiest intersections in the city of Mobile at Spring Hill Avenue and Mobile Street was put up on the site of the proposed project. A year ago, there was a report made to the Planning Commission, and I just heard 2 gentlemen say that nobody attended that meeting. For the record, I attended that meeting, and so did 2 other owners of property on that street. It was not completely not attended. By the way, the meeting was in Spring Hill. Well, we live in Crichton, so it was not held in our community. Only 10 days ago were the homeowners in the adjacent neighborhood of Del Barco notified of the intention of Murphy Oil to include the first residential home at 251 Del Barco to be included in the plans for the development. By taking the first home on the street, it implies that Murphy may try to gobble up all the homes on the west side of Del Barco, therefore destroying our whole small neighborhood. A quality 21st city like Mobile needs to protect neighborhoods like Del Barco. Neighborhoods like ours need to not only survive, but to thrive and be protected from big corporations like Murphy Oil, headquartered in Texas with no particular concern for our city. We need to protect and attract people to invest in residential property inside the city limits, building a strong tax base and preventing flight to the suburbs. If you will please consider the reject of these proposals for safety reasons. 1, every ambulance that goes through to Mobile Infirmary or to USA Hospital must navigate and negotiate this busy, dangerous intersection. To add a third convenience store on that corner just adds more danger to the situation. And one of your family may be in one of those buses one of the days trying to get to the emergency room. The other reason for rejection is just our quality of life. There's a church right across the street on Spring Hill Avenue, a big church that has just done such a great job of cleaning up the neighborhood. They will be affected by this. And then also just our little neighborhood of 14 houses just will not survive. It will just not be the same. So please consider not approving these two proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Sherry Allen. I live at 262 Delbarco Drive. I have lived there for 48 years. My husband's lived there for 69 years. We are the longest residents that's been in this neighborhood. The traffic is one thing, but the security of if my husband needs an ambulance from that red light to our street gets blocked. We have one way in and one way out. It's just a little round circle. It's a little quiet neighborhood. Most people pass it and don't even realize it's there. But if I need emergencies, it's going to be a problem. If you're building a gas station right there or have them going in that way, it's just going to make it worse for us. When the other gas station was built, we see the lights all the time and the noise, traffic every day, and it used to be quiet. You moving it on the street? Well, the gentleman across the street, his property faces Spring Hill Avenue. He's been trying to sell that, and if you let that go for business, he's going to want to go for business. There will be no Delbarco. We live there with our children and plan to give it to our children when we pass on. That's the way it usually was. We knew everybody in that neighborhood that's lived there and passed on. You're going to destroy our neighborhood. You're going to destroy our little quiet neighborhood. We've never had any trouble with robberies. Well, one time somebody stole some apples from our apple tree. Other than that, that was fine. But other than that, it's been quiet. No other problems. Please, do not allow this to happen. No one's approached us, and this is the first time this Delbarco has come up. And I'm upset. My husband's upset. Please, do not let it go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Yes, sir. Name and address.
My name is Bradley Johnson. I live at 271 Chidester Avenue. So originally I was just concerned that it was going to be a gas station because we have 7 working gas stations within a mile radius of this intersection and 2 or 3 non-operating ones. The CEFCO that they built is a great gas station, and it's hardly ever at 100% capacity, so I feel like we don't need another gas station right there. Fast forward 20 or 30 years, it's not a gas station anymore. They leave behind pollutants like benzene at the site of the gas station, sort of like car washes if filtration isn't working properly. Also, I didn't know if they were going to be taking the building for the U.J. Robinson Memorial Center, and so I drove down there before the meeting today to see what the place was about. And the person that was in charge at the time, he came out and he was telling me that they're hoping to sell the land to be able to fund services and fund right. So they're relying on the sale of the land, and I can sympathize with that. They do a lot of great work there, but I just wish that they could find a use for that corner that's not a gas station and that doesn't take the house on Delbarco, because I feel like we don't need another gas station. And on my drive from my house on Chidester to the U.J. Robinson building today, it took me 12 minutes to get there because traffic was already so bad on Spring Hill Avenue. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have room for one more opposition speaker. If there'd like somebody coming down, again, state your name and address for the record, and then a reminder to the applicant, you will have a 2-minute rebuttal to each of these opposition speakers. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Jim Flowers, and I live at 922 Conti Street. Our home is in the middle of, or not the middle, but it's in the Old Dolphin Way Historic District. And we just had an 8-month-long fight with Murphy Oil over the installation of a gas station where Church Street East, Old Dolphin Way, and the Oakley Garden District meet. And though this neighborhood is not in a designated historic district, they have the same issues. The Architectural Review Board voted unanimously to deny this application for Murphy Oil. I really don't have a whole lot to add to what's already been said, except that there are studies that show that a gas station will devalue property by as much as 30 to 50%. And we had to fight. The property in the historic districts was actually zoned commercial, and fortunately, because of the imposition of lighting and just the visual import of this project, Murphy Oil was denied their application. There are also 2 centennial oaks on this property that'll have to be taken down. I just would like to call to this commission's attention that there's a trend in this country, and certainly it's beginning in Mobile, where people want to live in the city. People are moving in to downtown Mobile and midtown Mobile. I just think we can do better. So I would ask at least that this meeting might be held over so that the residents can have their say. I mean, they had a community meeting that's in Spring Hill, which is 3 to 4 miles away, where many of these residents wouldn't have been able to attend. So I just ask that you take this seriously and suggest that we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers. I'll ask Mr. McGill if he'd like to make any comments.
I would like to clarify that I don't work for Murphy. We're a separate entity. We're just partnering with them on this project. Being from Mobile, I am from here. I live in Dallas now and work for this company. I do understand everything that they're saying, but I've done these projects across the country. I've worked on about 15 different Murphys from New Mexico to Florida. They're typically only bring a good value to areas that a lot of times where you've got rundown buildings on the property. So we're not going to go and spend a lot of money to take down anything that's really expensive. And this is just an area where you've got 2 empty buildings on the corner that run down. You got empty land behind it. And then I also understand about the oak trees. We're not going to be tearing those down. Those are staying. We're simply just putting a driveway on a portion of this property. We tried to make it work where the house would stay because we didn't want to tear it down, but DOT required us to extend it another 15 feet, which makes it where we have to tear down the house. It's not originally what we wanted to do. We didn't even want to have to take down this house. It was just what DOT required to make the project work. So I hope that y'all can take that in consideration. I understand there's some opposition here, but we only have good intentions, and I hope that we can get this approved and moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. That concludes that portion of the agenda. We've exhausted our opposition speakers, and we had a rebuttal. I'll move on to agenda item number 9. This is a dual application of and I will like to point out, Mr. Kenny Nichols, on that application, number 8, is recusing. And again, that doesn't mean there's a direct correlation there, but even with that recusal, we still have a quorum. On number 9, this is a dual application of a subdivision and a rezone at 2660 Old Shell Road. Subdivision of one lot at 9/10 of an acre and a rezone from a single-family R1 and a neighborhood business urban B2 to, in its entirety, a B2. For the subdivision, there are 8 conditions listed, and for the rezone, there would be potentially 6 findings of fact and 1 condition. Mr. Byrd.
Yes, Gary Byrd, Byrd Surveying. The owner is wishing to construct a restaurant on the corner, O'Shell and, whatever that street is. And there was an existing building there that has since been removed. And it was better to remove it and build a new one, he said, after thorough examination of it. That portion of the property is actually zone B2, urban classification. The northern portion where we have the parking is zoned R1, and that's what is prompting this rezoning, is to put it all into B2, and so they can, and that would make the one lot subdivision be all zoned the same. This property was here maybe 7 years ago, asking for the same thing. We did the subdivision, and the zoning was approved. It dropped the ball somewhere along the line, and the advertising and completion of the rezoning was never before the city council to complete it. And we had a neighborhood meeting. We had 2 neighbors there. Both were in agreement with what we were doing. One of them lives on Highland Avenue, and the other one is the director of the Dumas Wesley Center. But the lady on Highland Avenue was happy with the restaurant situation, glad to see something there that her and her husband could walk to. They frequent the commercial district there at Florida and O'Shell. So that's what the rezoning is for. The subdivision, we're asking for a rezoning of a re-subdivision of that to allow the current UDC building setbacks. The present recorded subdivision was in compliance with the subdivision regulations at that point in time. No other changes on the subdivision. But we're in agreement with conditions.
All right. I hear in agreement on the conditions on the subdivision and community meeting held. Those that attended were in agreement with the potential development. Mobile Street's getting some activity today.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the audience to speak for this agenda item? Anyone here to speak against the dual application of a subdivision and rezone at 2660 Old Shell Road? Any questions before Mr. Byrd sits down entirely to get comfortable? Any questions or comments from commissioners on the development? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 10. Staff has informed me that this is to be recommended for holdover, Mr. Byrd.
Yes. Another problem with PUDs that I've got Mr. Anderson, I'll keep bugging him about some way to eliminate PUDs. And, but we need to get the authorizations from additional people.
All right, let me officially call this agenda item, since there may be those in the audience that are here. This is a subdivision and a modification of a previously approved unit development at 6301 Grelot Road. This is Christ United Church West subdivision. The applicant is requesting a holdover with revisions submitted no later than November 8th for the November 21st Planning Commission meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment or ask questions regarding this agenda item? All right. Seeing none, we will now close the public hearing session. We'll move back to number 1 on the agenda for the deliberation amongst the commissioners. Number 1, subdivision at the northeast corner of Schillinger Road South and 7th Avenue. The applicant is or was present and in agreement with the 9 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for subdivision passes. Number 2, subdivision at 1933 and 1935 Staples Road. The applicant is or was present and in agreement with the 8 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes for subdivision. Number 3, subdivision at 1114 McNeil Avenue. The applicant is or was present and in agreement with the 6 listed conditions.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 4, subdivision at 3957 and 3659 Old Shell Road and 3669 College Lane, St. Paul's Episcopal. This is 10 listed conditions. The applicant was or is present and in agreement. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 5 on the agenda, subdivision at 1852 Dolphin Street. Mr. Byrd, as applicant or representative of the applicant, there was commentary made towards number 2 of the conditions and also a traffic engineering comment, if they were looking at the right one. Were you? Yeah. I'm reading one of final placement of a note on final plat stating all traffic engineering comments noted in the staff report. Are you referring to the staff report?
I was referring to the traffic engineering comment. It should be changed to driveway number, size, location, design to be approved by traffic engineering and conform to ASHTO standards. It should just be the standard comment. For some reason, when it was sent, it somehow got the wrong one on there. I don't know how that happened. But the
All right,
one
would
on
you-
there refers to Moffett Road.
Yeah.
He is
design
referring
engineering.
to the comment in the
The staff
staff
report,
report,
staff
so we need
report.
to correct that.
Okay. Does that affect anything that Mr. Byrd needs to know?
No, it's going to
Okay.
be a standard comment.
All right. We'll entertain a motion for number 5.
I would move to approve, subject to staff recommendations, amending condition number 2 to say dedication sufficient to the city engineer rather than sufficient to provide 25 feet, and amending the staff report regarding traffic engineering's comments as they were just elucidated by staff.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes for subdivision. Number 6 was a subdivision at 429 Lincoln Boulevard, the Mobile Terrace subdivision. I'll ask if the applicant, Ms. Linda Ellerby, or any representative has ever made it into the audience. Seeing none, we don't have representation.
No.
Oh, we have a wave. Were you there the first time on that? All right, got it. Technically, we've closed public hearing, but for our due process here, I'll ask if you were in agreement with the 7 agreement. Nodded. That makes everybody feel better. Agreement of conditions. Applicant is present. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Number 7, a rezone application at 674 Western Drive to go from Buffer Business Suburban B1 to Community Business Suburban B3.
I'd like to remind everyone that for zonings under the UDC, you can see in the staff reports, A through G, those criteria, all of them have to be met. So just keep that in mind, please.
I move to approve, subject to staff recommendation with findings of fact A through G and including conditions 1 and 2.
Properly moved and seconded. Also a comment that the applicant was in agreement with the protection buffer for condition number 1. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion considering this is a rezone? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for rezone passes. Number 8, dual application, subdivision and rezone at 2660 and 2662 Spring Hill Avenue, 266 Mobile Street, 251 Del Barco. The applicant, Mr. McGill, representative of the applicant, is present. We have to recuse Mr. Kenny Nichols. We still have a quorum of 6.
I would ask that you'll disregard the comments concerning the denial of the other Murphy Oil on Broad Street. It's before a different board with different criteria, not about zoning, not about use, different criteria. So please don't allow that to be in your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thanks, Doug. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention for the record, since Councilman Woods is not here, Councilor Penn has made it very clear that he is not in support of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Also a reminder that this, of either of these two, regardless of how, well, if it goes to the next level, would be at the city council level. So thank you for that comment. Any questions or comments from commissioners on the applicant? We did have for the agenda item.
Mr. Chairman, I do. Regarding the community meeting, the applicant said there was no one there. The resident said that they had 3 people there, and then the story is that it was 3 to 4 miles from the neighborhood where the meeting was done. Is there any kind of a rule or anything to keep that meeting within a proximity to the property affected? And I ask that because I have a living grandparent that wouldn't be able to make a 3-mile trek, but could have attended that meeting if it were close. Is there anything that would, is there any reason why a meeting would be held 3 to 4 miles away? Is there a rule that says it should be closer? Can we ask that?
There's not a rule, and I didn't know that until this week.
Okay.
I thought it had to be in the same council district, but that's not required. I think when the lady was talking about she and 3 other people attended a meeting, it was maybe a meeting here. A prior. I thought
it was for the first re-subdivision, wasn't it?
Pardon?
It was the meeting for the first one when they tried that, right, where everyone attended.
Correct.
Nobody attended. This most recent one, I think, is what the confusion is.
You know, maybe a philosophical question. If you have a community meeting that's not in the community and nobody shows up, did it really happen?
A problem. Well, you have a community meeting outside the community.
Well, what the criteria in the UDC has for community meetings is that they must be held in a public or institutional building such as a school, library, or community center, which will accommodate the anticipated attendance and be located near the proposed site.
But no distance measurement there.
No distance.
Okay. Point noted. Any further questions or comments from commissioners?
I would say the other issue I have, in asking about the buffer, a gas station means lights from dusk to dawn. That's just going to be a thing. And when you put an 8-foot privacy fence up, I have an 8-foot privacy fence. And, my kids can jump up on top of it and look over it. It's not, to me, that's not really a sufficient buffer to buffer from light, noise, and all the things that come with a gas station. So I'm still, I understand they're going to put up an 8-foot privacy fence, but I'm still kind of unclear as to what other measures or things could be done to mitigate the impact of the residents, especially after dark. During the day, maybe not as big a deal. Although there's old, if you've ever been in one of the old houses on that street or like it, you know that noise comes through and goes out the other side. I mean, it's just there's not a lot of sound insulation. So I'm still unclear on how Murphy or whoever this is going to mitigate the light and noise from the residents, particularly from dusk to dawn. People roll into gas stations at 3 in the morning with radios turned on. How do we keep that out of these people's houses?
Well, the UDC buffer requirement for a B3 site abutting single-family residential is a 6-foot high privacy fence minimum plus a 10-foot wide evergreen vegetated buffer. So they both have to be present. Okay. The UDC also has lighting standards with foot candle requirements that would be applied when the site is submitted for review for permits. In terms of the noise issue, the city has noise regulations. It's just a matter of getting those enforced, and that I think is responsibility of the police department.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, and I'm trying to put myself in their shoes for a minute here. You can't call the police because somebody came into a gas station with booming music and they've left. The police are going to come and go, where's the criminal, where's the crime? And they're going to go, well, he was here, I promise. And they're going to say, okay, great. So that, those are my concerns thinking about this from the resident's standpoint is it really does, maybe not so much the people at the top of the cul-de-sac, but the people at the beginning of the cul-de-sac, it really does impact their day-to-day lives. I mean, it truly does. I can see it. Also, I did a quick search, and I don't know if I can ask this, Mr. Chairman, from someone that lives in that area, but I just did a quick search, and there's 3 or 4 gas stations within less than a quarter mile of this site. So this would be gas station 4 or 5 within a block. I mean, it's almost like if you were looking down the street, all you're going to see is gas prices, all down the street, kind of making it look like more like a carnival than a road. So I don't know. These are the concerns that I have, and I've been looking at this stuff since we've been talking about it. So all of those things are on my mind. So I just wanted to bring those up.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I would move that we deny the subdivision due to its insufficiency with regard to orderly development, health, safety, and welfare, and the lack of correlation to adjacent development.
Second. We have a properly moved and seconded denial of the subdivision. I'll ask staff if we do take these separately. We'll take them separately in concurrent order.
You should take them separately. Yes.
Yep. All right, so this is on the subdivision only. We have a properly moved and seconded motion to deny the subdivision at 2660 62 Spring Avenue, 266 Mobile Street, and 251 Del Barco. Any discussion? So again, the motion is for denial. All in favor for denial?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The denial passes.
Do we get a second on that?
Yeah, I got a second down here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Moving on to the rezone, considering it's tied directly to the rezone of a residential area adjacent to the business district. Entertain a motion.
I would move that we recommend denial.
Second.
It's really a moot point because the condition of it is the completion of the subdivision process, and that's impossible now, so the rezoning is moot.
All right, we won't even bring it to a vote then.
Just for clarification, is the staff checking these covenants, or is that on the applicant? I know we're not taking. I was.
That's nothing. That's something we have the city's never investigated. That's up to the neighbors to enforce them. We don't have the enforcement authority.
Yeah.
As you know, so it's always up to the neighborhood to enforce their own covenants.
Yeah. Okay. And I think I wanted to make sure we were clear on that. On the covenant side, we're not taking that into consideration.
You're recusing yourself on number 9.
Y'all can go ahead and vote on the zoning. I still think it's moot, but Bert brings up the issue of appeal to council. Of course, the subdivision's appeal to circuit court. But just so everybody will know how y'all stand, y'all go ahead and vote on it.
All right, so we never removed the motion. We have a properly moved and seconded denial of the rezone of the application. All in favor of the denial of the rezone?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion too passes. Number 9, I'm going to ask Mr. Nick Amberger. Mr. Nick Amberger needs to recuse himself for number 9 from voting. We still have a quorum with the Mr. Nichols returning. This is a dual application. Again, we'll take separately at subdivision at 2660 Old Shell Road and a rezone. Rezone is from R1 and B2 to in its entirety B2. This proposed development was described by Mr. Byrd, did have a community meeting. We'll take them separately. Subdivision had 8 conditions. The applicant is in agreement with those conditions. I'll entertain a motion for the subdivision at 2660 Old Shell Road.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for the subdivision passes. the rezone to entirety B2 at the same location with 6 findings of fact. I entertain a motion.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations and findings of fact A through G.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion for rezone passes. In other business, we have 4 minutes that we will vote on as a batch. These minutes are from Planning Commission meetings of November 4th, 2021.
We have a holdover.
You have your number 10,
Oh,
which is.
thank you. Properly need to vote on the holdover for number 10. Entertain a motion to November 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for holdover passes. Back to the minutes at hand. Planning Commission meetings in batch, November 4th of 21, 18th, December 2nd, and December 16th. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for the minutes approval passes. Any further business from staff? All right, thank you very much, everyone.